Hey everyone, my name is Eric, and today I'm going to tell you the story of Kem Weber. So for today's drawing, I'm pairing up a Blackwing 602 pencil with a white charcoal pencil. Now the Blackwing 602 is an amazing pencil, and it has its own rich history, which we'll probably talk about at some point in the future. Now Kem was actually born Karl Emanuel Martin Weber in Germany in 1889. Now, as a teen, he had some issues, so he was actually so disruptive in school that at 15 he was asked to leave. So he ends up going to work for this cabinet maker's shop, and he becomes really interested in everything related to woodworking and furniture design and things like that. So he starts working for different companies like that throughout Germany. So over time, he gets really good at this, so much so that the company he's working for sends him over to America in 1914 to work on a German exhibit for something called the Panama Pacific International Exposition. This must have just been a big, huge show. So he gets over there, and unfortunately, that's like right around the time that World War I breaks out. So he gets stuck. And not only does he get stuck, all of the supplies related to the show that he was going to work on never make it to him. So he's both stuck and has nothing to do. So he starts looking for things to do around town. He first starts his own arts and crafts company around 1914 and starts just doing his own kind of design work. And a furniture company at the time called Barker Brothers hires him. He gets really good there, to the point that by the time he's art directing, he's making $12,500 a year, which is about $180,000 a year in today's money. So just really, really good. He starts cranking out some amazing designs, and eventually this catches the eye of Walt Disney. So Walt brings him in about 1938. By a year later, 1939, he's already the chief designer there, and he's working on all sorts of things. He's working on furniture redesigns and doing mock-ups of possible buildings that they're going to construct. All of this work at the Burbank Studios there in California. One of his more famous designs from that time was something called the airline chair. Now, he actually had a hard time finding a mass market for this chair at the time. He made about 300 of these chairs total, and about 200 were sold to Walt Disney for his studio. But what he's probably best known for, and what I absolutely love him for, is all of the design work he did on all of the studio furniture for Walt Disney. So if you can imagine working at Walt Disney at the time and just doing whatever you could on the furniture you had, in comes this guy and says, we're going to redesign it. We're going to make specific tables for animators and specific tables for directors and layout people. And so he works with all of those artists to help design the best table possible. And he actually makes all sorts of tables. He makes animators tables, layout tables, in between their tables, something called a checkers desk, just all sorts of different types of furniture. He also makes furniture that goes along with that furniture. So when you come into your office, before you sit down at your Kem Weber table, you might take your coat off and put it in your Kem Weber coat closet. So he just had such a big hand in designing the office environment of Walt Disney in the 30s and 40s. Now what I'm drawing here is something called an animator's table. Now these tables are so sought after that if you were to find an original Kem Weber animator's table from the 1930s or 40s, you could expect to spend easily between $10,000 and $20,000 at auction for one of these tables. And that's for several reasons. These tables have a story and a history to them. I mean, some of these tables were used by the biggest animators of the time, working on films like Snow White or Bambi. They all have a story in both who used them and the story of the table itself. Because of the way he built them and the type of materials he used, each of these tables had a sort of patina to them. So they were completely unique. You know, one might have a particular discoloration in one area, or the wood would be worn a certain way, or some sort of scratch or something like that that made it a really unique piece. And there are lots of funny stories with these desks too. So one of the ones I read was that the cabinet on the lower right for some of these desks was designed to specifically hold a bottle of scotch. In fact, you can look at some old photos of these desks with the cabinet doors open and see a ring around the bottom of those cabinets. And that's where it's believed that they just, put their liquor at, and they've just busted out in the middle of the day. Even the drawer handles have stories too, because it turns out these handles were really good at opening a bottle of beer. They called it the perfect bottle opener. So you can just imagine the stories around this time where all of these animators are working really hard on a project, trying to crank out all this artwork, and at some point during the day they just bust out their bottle of scotch or have a beer. So Kem Weber passed away in California in 1963. And since then, his furniture has become very sought after, not just because it's amazing furniture and it was part of a really unique design trend in the 1930s and 40s, but also because who he made this furniture for and the wonderful contribution those people made to the world of entertainment. Now, a lot of the research I was doing for this video pretty much came from one book, and it was a book by a guy named David Bossert who worked at Disney here in the Florida area, actually. And it's called Kem Weber Mid-Century Furniture Designs for the Disney Studios. It's a wonderful resource if you're at all interested, not just in the history of Disney, but also in the history of a guy who's coming over here, gets stuck here, and turns that misfortune into a very successful furniture company that has a very lasting impact to this day. Here's the book here in case you're interested in it. I will put a link to it below if you want to check it out. All right, so I'm pretty much wrapped up on the drawing here, and what I've done is created the combo that I love the best, which is unit number 1 for the bottom, and then for the top part, that's called unit number 2. If you look in the book, it's just basically shown as the animator's desk, and it's really just my favorite combination. All right, that wraps it up for today's story, so I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. Take care.